Is that a good segue? Because I saw some positive news today, for me at least.
Talk about it.
Jeremy
Talk about
Fowler,
it.
he's on ESPN. He said there's reports
Shout out
that
to Jeremy too.
people within the Steelers organization are pointing to Ben returning. They're going through the contract. I don't think they maybe had the official meeting yet, but
Yeah.
it seems like all signs are pointing to Big Ben returning, which is positive news to me because over the past day or so with Pouncey retiring, there's a lot of people throwing stuff out there that Ben's decision could be heavily impacted with that. So you didn't think that? That's why I'm curious because right now I'm hoping Ben comes back, and I'm really thinking it's going to happen based off these new reports. But people were trying to throw some of this speculative shit out over these past couple of days with Pouncey.
Maybe I'm weird, but I understand their closeness, and I mean, from my whole time there to even retired and coming back, they would always talk about when to go out together. They always talked about when to retire together. But the reason why I never thought that Ben was going to retire once Pouncey did this year is because, number one, Ben, from the time the season has ended, he has been very vocal about wanting to return.
Yeah.
If the team will have me back, I want to come back. He's been very vocal about it. It's not like some of these other offseasons where, think about the year we drafted Mason. What did he say multiple times that year? Maybe I should hang it up. Maybe I don't have any more.
After
Maybe
the Patriots AFC Championship game, he was going back and forth.
Right. But we didn't hear any of that from Ben from the time the game ended. He was sitting on the sideline next to Pouncey. That whole dialogue, it wasn't all right, man, this is it for us. This is it for me. You never heard that. So that's why for me, I never thought that Ben would retire. To me, I think it's more so if they can get the number done, I think that he comes back regardless if the number is right. But I think it would be more stronger in case of him getting cut than retiring right now, just because he never gave off any indication that he was thinking about hanging him up. You hear him, he sounds like he still can do it. And you see enough of it on tape that you're like, okay, yeah, he's still capable of playing at a good level. He can still do that.
And we know the Browns, the wild card game wasn't his best game. The dude still threw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's all indications, like you said. I still think he's got it in the tank, man.
Nah, he got enough. He has enough.
I'm feeling resurgence, dude. I really am. But I mean, I've been saying this the whole time. I was curious what you thought just about these reports, though, and if you think Ben's going to be retiring or not or coming back, because that's what people have been talking about over the past day or so.
Yeah, for me, I think I figured it was either he comes back on a new deal some way, somehow, or they would just cut him. I never thought that he would retire, though. Like I said, it's everything that we've heard from him, everything that we've seen, in terms of, just his body language. It hasn't given us the indication of a guy that wants to retire. It's given us the indication of a guy that, number one, was pissed about how the season ended, but more so is ready to come back. He wants another opportunity. He knows his contract situation, so he's saying the right things, but he still looks like a guy that wants to play. And to me, wanting to play is a lot more important, man. When we start talking about guys retiring, then you got to talk them back out of retirement. Like, I don't want you to talk a guy out of retirement. If they don't want to play, they don't want to play. Give me a guy that's been saying they want to play. And with Ben, he's been saying that. Mm-hmm. So I definitely, like I said, for me, I never, especially after seeing all that play out, I just never thought that, he would go down because of Pouncey retiring.
Cool. That's how I'm thinking, too, with the new report that came out. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I was interested in your opinion. There was one more thing I think I wanted to say on this, but I forgot. So never mind.
Man, I'm trying to think.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Do you think the meeting happens this week then?
Well,
it was supposed to happen last week.
Right? Exactly. So to me, I hope so, because the sooner that happens, the sooner those numbers get out, the sooner we all can know what this team is going to have to play with in terms of free agency, in terms of if they can't come to an agreement, are we solely looking at drafting a guy now? It's a lot that can happen in that conversation. So yeah, the sooner the better. So I'm hoping that it gets done this week, man.
So what other moves can be made to clear up the cap space? Is it cutting Vince Williams? We already did Vance McDonald.
So Vance retired, Pouncey retired. Those two helped. You could cut or restructure in terms of extending the years for Vince, similar to what we said with Ben, right? You extend it out to push over that cap hit a little bit over the next couple of years, but you can still release him. And then you just say, okay, well, next year it's only a $4 million hit. And then the year after that is off the books completely. So they could do something like that. Obviously, trying to think who else. Oh, man.
One of the cornerbacks, DeCastro.
Well, because the whole thing right now is in terms of potential guys to either get restructured or cut, right? We talked about that earlier. We said Pouncey was one. We said DeCastro, Vince. We said Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden as well. They already talked about Al as well. So I'm trying to think.
He's free agent, right?
Yeah, he's going to be leaving. Yeah, but so because they were saying he wasn't coming back. But those were the main guys though that I listed in terms of potential candidates for either being cut or, like you said, some type of extension to just soften the cap blow, because you can cut a guy that is still a good player solely to free up cap space. We've seen that. And you can also extend a guy with the full intention of cutting him the next year. But by extending him, you ultimately soften the cap blow for that current year. We've seen it's multiple ways that they can make, enough moves to free up some space. We saw it last year when they signed Derek White and Eric Ebron. At the time, they didn't have a ton of money, and they found a way to, okay, we're going to restructure this, we're going to extend that, and now we got enough to make this deal happen. So they can do, enough little moves to give them a little bit more cap space, but as a whole, they're not going to be able to compete with some of these other teams that have a plethora of cash just available to them right now.
Which is fine. I think maybe you would agree with this. I think if we can somehow run it back for the most part, maybe not having 2 or 3 players, Juju, Bud, I don't know, maybe one more. Do we need that much? Maybe just enough to bring in Watt to sign our draft
This is
picks?
my question to you, though.
Okay.
How many times was Juju Big Ben's safety net? How many times did Juju come up and got to have situations, 2-minute drills, work in the middle of the field, third down, situational ball? That's his guy. We're easily sitting here talking about it as if, okay, he leaves, one of the guys that were already on the roster just magically steps up and does what he does. We haven't seen them do it. Not saying they can't. And I do think that some of those guys definitely
maybe
can.
I'm assuming that. I'm assuming a Claypool jump. I'm assuming a Deontay jump. And then James Washington, too. We talked about him.
Right. But we saw how Deontay, compared to last year to this year, he struggled a little bit as a receiver, right? His confidence was shot a little bit. Wasn't the most consistent in terms of catching. So to just say that, hey, we can kind of do this thing without Juju, I'm not 100% sold on it just yet. If Juju leaves, I still think you're going to have to do something to upgrade that offense, whether you bring in a high-level running back or you
I'm thinking running back. Yeah, for sure.
Like you're going to have to bring in something else, because at this stage in Ben's career, he's not going to be able to go out there with no running game and no Juju and expect him to come out here and win games. I just don't see that happening personally.
Harris, the first round pick. I'm calling for it.
We're going to see, man. We're going to see.